Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, here we are again, and we promised you in an earlier episode that we were going to talk more in depth about brain priming, the brain priming process, which Alex Leanne, I know that this is a key part of the programs we do. I have a free wealth activation for you, and it is covering this brain priming that we're going to be talking about today so that you can start activating your wealth right now. How exciting is that? Okay, so really one of the things that happens is that we're telling ourselves things, and it may be the things that are holding us back that we start to realize isn't what we thought it was. Like, we think it's our skills, we think it's our effort, we think it's our circumstances, but the unconscious stories that are playing on repeat is really what's going on. So today we're diving into the power of one of the ways that we neutralize and erase these stories, right? Because we can end up trying to change our lives and just being stuck on this repeated pattern. And this is one of the things I work with specifically with people who are crossing from 6 to 7 figures. And I guarantee that result. But when you come into a program working with a mentor and you're not receiving those results, it can be because we're not working with the way that our brains and bodies work together and the way they're designed. Brain priming is a part of our 4-step neuroscience process where we teach you how to actually reprogram your brain, right? So, if we're not doing this, then we don't even realize what's running the show. We don't realize that our decisions are being made from things we're actually unaware of in our subconscious mind. And the brain is doing its job to protect all the patterns in our subconscious mind, good, bad, and ugly, right? And we got over 90% of those limiting beliefs came to us when we were very young, even before the age of 8, they estimate. And it's interesting because the subconscious is running the show. So we think it's the conscious mind. We think we're cognitively making decisions, and we are, but it's not really what's running the show. It's the subconscious, the things we're unaware of that are driving forward our decisions based on our beliefs. What are our beliefs, right? This is where we get to dive deep. But today we're going specifically into this aspect of brain priming because brain priming is a key area where you can start to look at things and get started right now. And we don't want to leave you hanging short. This isn't it at all. Like, in our programs, we do, and with our clients, we do like full in-depth here about brain priming. For me, I take 90 days, a quarter of time, and we do a workshop and we dig deep on this process because it's so important, and it's really necessary in order to be able to do the reprogramming to create the reality to be unleashed and unstoppable. So this is the exciting part. And And with my own brain priming, I still use it every day. It's very exciting to be able to do it. And, Alex, I want to add that point in when we start talking about different points on brain priming is that it be an emotionally stimulating and really fun process. And so one of the things that we were having fun looking at before this recording was we're going to talk about frequency in music and the brain priming process. And music, man, really accelerates your brain priming. What's brain priming? What is it? It's actually your own affirmations, way more powerful than listening to somebody else's affirmations. When you hear your own voice speaking truth and success beliefs into your life, this is where powerful change happens. And this is the exciting part, right? I love this so much because we have evidence in our own lives. This has been a key part of my healing from my traumas, and I know it has been from yours as well, Alex. And so we were looking at some old songs, and there's one from back in the day by Helen Reddy called I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. And then we were like the Beatles, I Am the Walrus, right? And like, what'd you say? There was one, Simon and Garfunkel, I Am the Rock. Um,
Yeah.
there's I Am by Beyonce right now. And so we're pointing this out so you can like have fun with it, but also be very aware of the absorption process that the power of music brings to wire in your identity. And you may be getting things from movies and from music and from culture, from people that you're surrounded by that you don't even realize. And so this is where we go deep on the neutralize and erase, right?
And we said, like in our recent podcast episode, right, Carol,
Yeah.
about you can often, like, you can see the results or often understand what people believe based on the results. And just going back and when he started and really talked about, like, we often sometimes think it's a conscious thing, it's about the strategy, it's about the
Mm,
doing, right? But
yeah.
really, it is about the belief. And this is, we've tweaked the way that we kind of do our discovery business strategy calls out with our clients with the web agency, because with my neuroscience background, I'm asking very specific questions
Yeah.
with the clients that we're working with. Because here's the reality: they can go and make a new website, which is fantastic to attract more of their ideal clients and more customers and create a greater impact. However, they're only going to be able to make the impact that they create will be matched up to their belief system. So I'm
Yes.
always asking a lot of questions, right? Getting really connected with what's the overall vision, because we talk about vision all the time, because
Right.
the brain prime is really the GPS coordinates to get to the
Yes.
destination, to get to the vision. So if
Mm,
there's a block, right? If you're like, this is my big vision, but because of the power of the neuroscience and my ability with coaching, if I sense that there's any cognitive dissonance or there's a disbelief there, right?
yeah.
There's an opportunity, and this is what's fun with being a neuro coach, even with a web design agency, is
Yeah.
that I have the opportunity to integrate the process with our clients because I know the power of the belief system, right? It's not
Yeah.
about a thing, right? It's not about the website. I mean, it is about the website, but there's also science of even with your website on how you're
Yeah.
positioning yourself and how you're showing up, right, with the content and what you're providing there. And
Yeah.
so this is what's so powerful to believe. The thing is not the thing, it's really what is underneath. I said it earlier, it's like what's under the hood, right?
Yeah.
It's really going to look at what is under the hood that's making the car run, right? That's
Mm,
making you as the human and identity run and
yeah.
make those decisions and take those actions to create the results, right? It's yes, a website is a vehicle to create that, but
Yeah.
you're still the driver of that vehicle. And so it's really important to have alignment with your destination and what your beliefs are. And that's what we're so excited about today's episode, is really to unpack that a lot and really lean into these, I am statements, and
Yeah.
and talk a bit about some of the challenges that occur if you choose to go out there and use other people's affirmations, because those affirmations are not your affirmations, and
Yeah.
we see it time and time and time again with
Yeah.
clients that are using other people's affirmations, and
Yeah.
all they're doing, whoops, almost dropped my water there. What they're doing, I guess you tell my passion of this topic, right?
Yes.
They,
Yeah.
they experience the cognitive dissonance, which is just this teeter-totter
Yes.
because they're not really connected to their truth, right? Their
Right.
their vision, what they're after, what's important to them. And it's like, okay, so I live in Calgary, right? And we got crazy heavy winters and we get potholes
Mm.
on the
Yeah.
on the
Hmm.
roads, right? We get
Yeah.
potholes. So we're on the road, but then you hit a pothole and you might get a flat tire. And the
Yeah.
reality is you might eventually get there, but now you've had quote unquote struggle because now you've got a flat tire. Now you got to
Yeah.
call it a day, right? Like it's not sailing to the destination. I
Mhm.
would say that's like that's your brain keeping you safe. So
Well,
you
you're bringing up such an important point. Every thought that we think is laying down a neural network. Every
yeah,
thought.
yeah,
There aren't exceptions to that. And I think, you're noticing that, I mean, you're really drawing out the fact that that is so purposeful. And one of the things that you're bringing up is that when we are brain priming, it is specific and it's powerful when we're doing our own thoughts, our own voice
mhm,
in brain priming is really our own affirmations. This is
yeah,
what it is. And it's specifically building neural networks that serve us to create the reality that we want to create because we're creating our reality all the time. We are where we are right now because of the way we think, right? And yes, we're co-creating. We are divine beings. We're not, we don't control everything. Some say we do. How much power do we have? It's limitless, right? And all things are possible and available for us. So, are we stepping into this and are we recognizing the system that we have that we can use to benefit our lives? So, brain priming is number one, it's very specific and powerful. And here's the cool thing, you can time it however you want to time it. And you had an example, Alex, of, having one that you felt like was really long. Mine's long. It's 30 minutes long. And I listen to it when I'm in an alpha state and we go deep into this inside of our programs. And you mentioned 18 minutes and then you were like, no, no, you've got young children, you've got things to do. You've got one now set for 2 minutes. So it's flexible in what you can do and how long it is. And you may want to do several at 2 minutes that you listen at different points or for different situations. But it's a consistent daily practice that we're actually teaching with this. And what you mentioned about cognitive dissonance, with it being specific and powerful, one of the things that I noticed listening to some affirmations that were a little bit older from somebody that I highly admire the other day was there was all kinds of cognitive dissonance built into these affirmations. What's cognitive dissonance? It's wiring in two separate things into the brain at the same time. So, in one place, the example was it was saying that, I attract wealth easily and effortlessly. But in another place, it was saying, I am getting there. It was, I can't remember specifically, but it was putting you in a state of never having it, of
yeah.
always being walking into it, and we have an example, you and I can do hard things and what that ended up doing for us in terms of cognitive dissonance. So this is one of the reasons that it is very specific and very powerful. And we are inviting you to understand the process, but we also very much invite you to work with a mentor, to work with somebody like we do who can guide you in this process so that you're not wiring in opposites unintended without even aware, or you're not listening to somebody else's voice. Um, so yeah, this is
I
really
was just
exciting, right?
I always love like when coaching a client and they're like, okay, I'm not getting this result. And they're like, okay, well, tell me about it. And they talk through, this is what the vision is. This is what, what's important. And just through conversation, you pick out, well, that's the belief.
Mm,
One that
yeah,
always stuck out for me was someone kept saying, well, here's my vision. This is what I want to create, but I need to recover from my burnout.
yeah,
And she kept saying, and so she must have said, I need to recover from my burnout like something like 5 times in 5 minutes. So that's a lot. It's 5 times. I need to recover from my burnout. I need to recover from my burnout. I need to
yeah,
recover from my burnout. So what is she priming? I'm constantly recovering from my burnout. And
yeah,
so that was, and I think she was on, it had been a while. I think it'd been something like, it was over a year that
yeah,
she was on this path to recover from burnout. And I I brought this to her attention and she was like, whoa. And I was
yeah,
like, because she was surprised on how long it took her
yeah,
to recover from her burnout. And it was like, well,
yeah,
that's because this is what you're saying. This is what you believe. So no wonder all you're creating for yourself is constant recovery from burnout. You
yeah,
haven't declared that you're recovered, right? And then it looks in a little bit deeper of like, well, what does recover look like, right? And then of course, I mean, some things we go a little bit deeper, but she had
right,
such a massive aha moment of like, oh my goodness. And in
yeah,
that moment, she was able to shift into, okay, you're
yeah,
right. Okay. And she actually looked at, well, okay, I'm healing. Like I'm on the mend
yeah,
and I get to now change my story and change my dialogue. And I just get to step into who I get to be to create the vision. But it's those little things that we don't even realize until, like
yeah,
Carol's saying, we work with a mentor or a coach who listens, and someone who's
yeah,
training like Carol and I, like it's a gift of what we listen to, because it's not just listening to what you're saying, it's also listening to the listening on what's underneath what you're saying.
yes,
You can go
yeah,
deeper to ask even
yeah,
more deeper questions to
yeah,
really get to the root, because we're not, even with the worthiness or not feeling loved, we're not walking around being like, I'm not loved, I'm not worthy. Like
mhm,
it's, you don't necessarily walk around saying that.
yeah,
It's the surface level things that you're saying that we go deeper and understand, like, okay, that's at the root cause, because we
that's
know
it.
we want to feel safe and loved, we want
Yeah,
to feel worthy enough, and we want to feel, yeah, safe and secure. I think I doubled up over there, but we want to feel those
yeah.
three things.
And
Carol
be
and I have the gift to do that, to get to
being
that.
able to train in that insight of really reading between the lines and hearing things that you don't even know that you're saying. And listen, we're on the journey with you too. I literally caught myself saying, I'm tired a few minutes ago, and I went, no, actually, I'm not going to make that declaration. I'm making the declaration that I have energy. I am energetic. That is the reality that I'm creating. And it came from a real sensitivity with working with a client who was constantly tired, constantly not able to show up. And just like in your example, it was repeated over and over and over again. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't legitimate health and fatigue issues that we get to address. This isn't speaking to that, it's speaking to the thoughts that are participating in creating the reality. Because when you're speaking to the energy and you recognize that there may be an ongoing health issue, you're motivated to go get the help that you need for that. And you can really use the brain to start to create the reality that you want to have. And guess what? I don't feel tired. I feel good. I feel energetic. So, it's a complete process. It's using thought plus emotion. Number two, we want to bring up to you is using I am statements. There's a lot of research behind the power of using an I am statement. And if you think about this, it's speaking directly to identity, who you are. So, whereas we may have the limiting beliefs of, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable, I'm not fast enough, I'm not strong enough. I don't have that skill set. I don't know how to do that. All of these things that we start to say that are the opposite of who we get to be when we want to be operating at a certain level. So I take women to 7+ figures. You get to be operating at that level of being with and at 7+ figures, right? So it's a matter of knowing how to wire in your success versus your limits and your truths versus lies that you have begun to believe about yourself or that you've believed about yourself over a lifetime. And in that, like, there's even nuances there. Another reason that you really want to work with somebody who understands this stuff. So in a brain prime, I may not say I am creating. I may say I create. Period. End of story. It's still an I am statement. It's who I am. I create. And, it's an example of these little nuances that we teach that really fire your brain to elevate you in an accelerated way. And this is where we get so excited because when we do this, we're laying new networks. We're laying new networks all the time, but this is the way we're laying new networks intentionally based on how amazing and who we are, right?
Well, the brain's sneaky, right? And I don't know how many times I get to look at clients'
Yeah,
brain and you just see like part of it, I think, is also the hesitation from the client to actually make the statement because that's really what it is. That's why it's an I am statement. It's making a statement. It's putting the pitchfork in the ground, right? Like making that
yeah,
declaration. And so there might be some resistance around that, which is great. I
yeah,
say that's great because what that tells us as your coach or mentor is that, hey, you don't truly believe this. And then there's more work to do because
right.
the last thing you want to do is prime in something that you don't actually believe, which is where the cognitive dissonance comes in. And so it's all of this stuff is really simple, but as Carol and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, is like it still does require work, right? It requires being really intentional.
Yeah,
And it requires like with kind of looking with our lens of like, okay, where is the brain keeping you safe? Where is
yeah,
the brain putting in these little nuances or these little things that are not gonna stop you from truly creating your vision that you want? And so
yeah.
and you don't see it. Like I've caught it in Carol's brain prime before. She didn't see it, but
Mm-mm.
I've listened and looked at herself. I'm like, wait, whoa, Carol, hold on a second. You're priming this. And she's done that to me,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
we often
We
can't
have
see
our
that.
own blind spots. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And, it's funny because as you were talking just now, a yawn slipped out, right? And there's my brain being sneaky, going, oh, you told me you're energetic, but by the way, I'm going to reinforce that you're tired, right? Just happened in a physical level. I get to address that. I get to say, I see you. I hear you. We're safe and we're moving on with energy, by the way. Right?
But it
So,
takes that moment too, right? It's important to acknowledge
mhm,
where you're at, right?
yeah,
Because just by like pushing it down and moving forward, you're not actually acknowledging, okay, clearly there's some sort of communication that I'm quote unquote tired. Okay, interesting, curious. Let's see, let's go through. And what is something I can do to shift my energy to
yeah,
have me wake up? Sometimes it could be that you've just been sitting for a long time.
yeah,
Sometimes things could be that you're dehydrated,
yeah.
or maybe you've been at the screen for a long time. Like there's little things like your body, I know we've talked previously in other episodes
And
about
we're
like
going
the
to
body
talk even more
more,
about it.
right?
Yeah,
The body's going to communicate to you. So the automatic might be, oh, I'm tired. It's just that your body's showing some symptoms. You're not
yeah,
actually tired. It's just showing symptoms because you need to shift something and move something. So that shift in energy. So I love how that just like happened, Carol, as you're talking about
yeah,
that, right? Because it
yeah,
shows you the power of like, hey, I just kind of said that, and that your body follows with that yawn. So another really powerful thing we talk about the brain being sneaky is to avoid using the negative. We often
yeah,
will see that, right? It's like, well, I don't want this because it's
yeah,
we have our negative bias. Well, I don't
yeah,
want this and I don't want that. I don't want this. It's like, well, what do you want, right? Because we don't want to prime in, I don't want this.
yeah.
Our brain doesn't see the don't. It
It
only
doesn't.
it
Yeah.
only processes what follows it. So it's not even hearing, I don't want this. It's only going to hear the thing that you don't want. I'll give an
It's going to
example.
hear, I want this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'll give it a really good example because I remember this is a trainer that helped me like really understand this. So if you're at a pool, what do you often hear people say when you're, if you're running right by a pool, what is everyone yelling at you
Yeah.
usually?
Mm,
They're
I,
yelling,
it,
or Carol, what are they yelling at you? You're like running by the side of a pool.
running back, stop running. Yeah. Don't run.
Yeah, don't run, right? Don't run.
Yeah.
Brain doesn't hear don't run. Brain hears run, run.
Yeah.
So we gotta tell the brain what we want. So
Yeah.
really mindful of this with, two littles, right? Of like,
Mhm.
okay, because it's fascinating how automatic the brain wants to say what we don't want to do or what
Yeah.
we
The
don't want to
negativity
feel.
bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I consciously always get to be aware. I'm choosing to be aware of, okay, if I don't want this to happen, what is the thing I want? So going back to the pool example, if
Yeah.
we want them not to run, well, what do we want them to do? We want them to walk. And this is a game I'm constantly playing with, especially
Yeah.
with Abigail, because she's a lot more active
Yeah.
of, okay, what do I want her to do in this situation? Well, I want her to hug her sister. I
Yeah.
want her to walk. I want her to use an indoor voice, or I'm just like thinking all the time, like, what is the outcome? And this
Mhm.
is so beautiful. I know for myself, like in these life moments, to realize and experience firsthand, wow, the power of the negativity bias of again how
Yeah.
default to that and how we
Yeah.
really want to stay focused on what do we want.
It
Be-
goes deep. You're right. Yeah. In gymnastics, it reminds me of the example instead of saying to an athlete, don't bend your knees,
Mm,
because the brain's going to get rid of that don't, and it's going to hear bend your knees, and they're going to have a perpetual problem with bending their knees. You want to say straighten your legs. So you
mm,
always want to put it in the affirmative and the positive, like instead of don't run, walk, slow down, when you're near the pool, so that the outcome is affirmative in the action that you're desiring to take. And this is so important with the things that you're priming in. You're setting intentions, you're priming in vision. And again, we go really deep on these things. This is a very surface level touching on the power of brain priming to introduce you to the concept. So this is not the full, I don't want to say the word. I was going to say a word of a movie, but this is not the full thing, the full impact. This is to help you understand the power that you have in the tools that are available to you and putting your system to work for you, putting your belief system to work for you, putting your brain and body to work for you, and spirit. I mean, I think of us as triune in so many ways, right? And this is what can help you to really move forward when you are brain priming, when you're giving your affirmations, is to use positive words rather than the negative, because the brain doesn't hear them.
and something fun, we said you do get to have some fun with this is that there's power of music and there's certain
Yeah.
types of music that you can play that'll help your brain be more activated and really connect with the words with your music. And I think
Mhm.
Carol, you were the one that introduced me with this solfeggio. I'm trying to think of the verb, like the
Oh,
how to.
solfeggio
There we go.
frequencies.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
right, and doing some research on
Mhm.
it, like looking at the beta and the alpha states and the different states that your brain is at and the power of the music at those different states.
Yeah.
And I was sharing Kara earlier, I even used ChatGPT actually to dive in a little bit more to learn more about the ideal music and frequency to listen to brain prime at, especially if you're listening to it in the morning when you're awake with your conscious mind, it's going to be a little bit different than when you're falling asleep with the subconscious. So there's different music that you're going to listen to in the tempos based on the time of day that you're listening to your brain prime.
Right.
So that's really fun to dive into and realize, okay, if we want to optimize the brain prime and optimize the rewiring of our neural pathways,
Yeah.
here's another, tool to accompany our brain primes to make it that much more effective.
Having an AM and a PM is a really powerful thing that you bring up there. And yeah, the frequencies, we're energy and we're frequency. We're vibrating at a certain level. And music is incredible for accelerating your results because those brain networks that you're building, that super highway just gets reinforced in incredible ways. And we see the results and we've experienced the results of this. And so I love that you brought this up. And hey, I am the walrus, right? Okay, so, being intentional about what you're listening to, there are certain frequencies they've discovered that are really powerful for healing. There are certain frequencies that are really powerful for connecting spiritually. There are a lot of different levels. And I love the way you mentioned using Chat GPT to look some of these things up. And these frequencies have been noted throughout time, like the solfeggio frequencies. They were used way back in India. Then they were used by Gregorian monks, thousands of years ago or a couple thousand years ago. So it's super interesting how this information has been out there and it can really help impact your brain priming in a super powerful, positive way. Oh, I got my feed the turtle signal.
Something else that like a really another common question that we also get is like, what can we use brain priming for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, a lot of times we're working with a lot of business, business, not well, businesses,
Leaders, business professionals.
yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Entrepreneurs and coaches and thought
Yeah.
leaders. And, sure, a lot of times it is for business results, for financial results. However, you can use brain priming with anything. Like
Yeah.
I was just sharing with Carol earlier,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have used it for childbirth. I
Yeah.
use it for potty training, for sleep training, trying to think, for even like our house, like anything and everything. Like I
Yeah.
would say that right
For your
now,
husband. You brain primed in your
yeah.
husband. Yeah.
So I find that like at this stage of the game, I guess not the game, but like the stage in life, because doing brain priming has become such an important part of
Yeah.
life. I know for Carol myself, like I just look around now at like, okay, if I don't like this result,
Hmm.
I ask myself, okay, what's the belief underneath this, or where do I get to shift this?
Yeah.
And what is the brain prime that I get to do around this, right?
Yeah.
So, we said health, wellness, fitness, relationships,
Yeah.
finances, romantic relationships, friendships,
Travel.
holidays, yeah,
Yeah.
travel, home, declutter projects,
Yes.
environment, investments. I mean,
Education.
yeah, the
Yeah.
sky's the limit, right? When it
Mhm.
comes to how you can, or different areas of life that you could use brain priming. I would say that generally speaking, people usually start with, the business or kind of financial goals there.
Yeah.
And once they see the power of it, then it starts to
Yeah.
kind of overlap into other areas of
Yeah.
life, because
Mhm.
you've now experienced the results and now you want to see, okay, where else in my life can I now really benefit? And that's what's so beautiful. It is kind of a copy paste sort of, process, because it
Mhm.
works in all the areas, because it's about going through the process.
Well, it's incredible in regard to health as well. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit more in some upcoming episodes because about health and the power of health. There's a lot going on that is being documented scientifically. Documenting the woo, if you will, to show the validity of it, of our neuroplasticity and the power that we have in terms of healing and the things that can be healed from. I mean, there's incredible examples. In one Harvard study, they separated patients in regard to knee surgery. And I think we may have mentioned this in an earlier episode. They only did knee surgery on a couple of them, and the rest of them, they made incisions like they did the knee surgery, but they had healing results that were, if I recall correctly, check the stats on this, but they were similar. So it was as if they'd had the knee surgery. And I just heard about a woman recently who regrew a removed thyroid. We don't know the incredible power that we have by setting the thought, if we're in a quantum realm, if we're living in a field where every reality is possible, what are we not utilizing? What can we utilize? What will we utilize? So this is a part of what we teach in terms of getting the results that you want and creating the reality that you want to create and going deep in the process. It's a simple process, but going deep in a guided process of being able to do so. And I know that one of the last factors that we want to bring up is just something that we've repeated in other episodes, and that is that it takes an average of 67 days. And that the 21 days you are laying down new neural networks if you're starting a new habit or pattern, but you have not removed the old network. And so in the brain priming that we're teaching, you actually want to follow through with the process, because you're going to encounter some brain resistance because your brain's job is to keep you safe. You need the tools and to know exactly how to deal with that. Brain is wired for reward. And so you need the celebration process to reward your brain on this journey of rewiring. And you're also going to want to pay attention to the time markers. Listen, if you've had certain limiting beliefs that have gotten wired in through your childhood, or generational patterns that you're breaking, trauma that you are healing from, how long have you been carrying that around? And what's a 90-day process in terms of years and years of maybe being driven by something that is not serving you, that is limiting you, holding you back from the life that you deserve? You actually deserve a full and abundant and joyful life. So when we look at this process, it's incredibly powerful, and it's a very, very short window of time in comparison to what you may have been experiencing in your life. And how cool is that, that you would have a system of tools to be able to do the things you want to do? For me, it's been very impactful in my healing from trauma. It's been very impactful in growing and accelerating to having more impact on the world, serving more, serving at a higher level, helping female leaders to cross over 7+ figures. There's still not enough female leaders in the world right now with access to the capital that men have access to. And then you can add the diversity factor to that, and the statistics drop even lower. Being able to have what you want in your life with joy, with alignment, being heart-centered, having your cake and eating it too, right? It's what we're designed for. We're designed to be creative. In fact, I heard Brene Brown talk on Oprah about this recently, and it's something that is absolutely the truth. And there are specific, powerful ways, such as brain priming, where you can have the results that you desire and that you deserve. And I'm purposely not using the word want. I'm getting away from using that word, because want can keep us cognitive dissonance wise in a perpetual state of scarcity or of lack. I want this because you
Yeah.
don't have it. And, desire is just a little bit of a tweak on that, but learning how to put ourselves in the realm that we actually want to be in the present. And so it's exciting.
Well, and I think it's exciting to realize, like, to understand, like, to really truly what is possible and what is available to you
Yeah.
if you're willing to make that commitment and go all in with the work. Because, as Carol just said, I mean, how many years have you been operating from this current state and being able to, I mean, you're really reversing, right?
Mm.
Years and years of thoughts and beliefs that don't serve you and don't support in the vision that you desire. And it's like it's just such this secret sauce that can really help you just show up feeling abundant, joyful,
Yeah.
feeling free,
Living in it.
eating,
Yeah.
yeah, and experiencing it. Because
Yeah.
you'll start, like, just with the reticular activating system, right? You'll start to see opportunity that was there in front of you, but you just weren't able to see it because of the way that what your brain was really focusing on because of the
Yeah.
beliefs that you had there. You start to shift that. And, at the beginning, it's more of a conscious awareness, and then it goes from the conscious awareness to your subconscious. And that's what's exciting, to really commit to the 67 days. Like, I'll share this with you. So I have been sharing affirmations with my daughters before they go to bed. So I say them
I
out loud
love
every night.
that.
So,
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah.
and it's funny, when I first started saying the affirmations, I used to say you, right? Because so that, I was
Hmm.
speaking to them. But I realized one day, I was like, wait a second, we want to prime in the I am. So
Yeah.
in order to prime in the I am, I get to say it to them, I am. So as they're in my mind thinking that they're repeating what I'm saying to them, they're repeating, I am, I am, I am. Instead of when I was saying you are, they would repeat, you are, you are. So I started saying, I am, I am, I am. And one of my blocks was about the loving piece. I had a lot of
Yeah.
stories and I had a lot of evidence to show that, I needed to work to be loved. Like, I just wasn't naturally loved. And our brains are looking, right? That's one of the
Yeah.
home bases, right? Now, I had this aha moment, I think it was last week, and it was as I was saying the affirmations out loud, which is, I
Yeah.
am safe, I am worthy, I'm loved, is part of it. And I caught when I said, I am safe, I'm loved. And I was like, yeah, I am. And I
Mm.
have evidence of that. I experienced that at my
Yeah.
birthday.
Mm.
And it was just all the things coming to me, right? My brain, I noticed as I said it out loud, I validated that belief because
Yeah.
of now what I have just recently experienced that supported that belief. And now when I say it, I feel warm inside, and
Yeah.
it's just so powerful. These were meant for my daughters, but because I have been conscious, and then I stopped to think, oh, like, how long have I been saying this? And I think it's around, right? Like, it's between 67 and 90 days. So I really thought back, like, okay, when
Yeah.
did I make the shift? Because it was a conscious shift that I made. I started off with the
Hmm.
you, and then after a while I shifted to the I. But we're in that mark, and it was like, wow, wow,
Hmm.
and that's what's so cool. I would say, even
Yeah.
as a coach, because
Yeah.
we often, and we'll see it in our clients before our clients often realize it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The
And
way it
that's
works.
our jobs. That's what we do,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So it's neat for myself to have those aha moments, because we don't always necessarily have them. It really oftentimes is our coaches that'll help us see that. But just in that little
Yeah.
moment, it was really, it was just that reminder of the power of this work,
Mm.
the power of the brain primes, the power of our I am statements, and the power of just really taking the time to intentionally declare. I mean, it's even declaring out
Mm.
loud,
Yeah.
and just that repetition, the power of the repetition and what's created. Now, I want to say, I also did the other work, right? I was still doing the brain priming, and I was still
Yeah.
working through, like, our process. So I wasn't creating that cognitive dissonance because I was also doing the work, but it was
Yeah.
just that the we're seeing, right? When you see the result
Such a
of
powerful
your
point. Yeah.
brain prime, it's magic. And I think that's what I just want to wrap up on here today
Yeah.
with our listener, is that it is this work is magic.
Mm.
And you may not see it in the moment, but that is the power of the 67 days. Like
Yeah.
oftentimes, I know for Cal myself, we'll put a date on it even so
Yeah.
that we're like intentional to see,
Yeah.
okay, this is the day and like what's happened over the last
Yeah.
67 days. So that we become consciously aware of the changes. We become consciously
Yeah.
aware of the shifts. And so we can celebrate because that's
Yeah.
just important too in the process, right?
It is, and it's incredible. I know that, just like me, it's one of the things that lights you up when we see these breakthroughs in our clients and we see them nearing the end of the initial brain priming process that they started with us. And it's like boom, 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 and all of these things show up and all of these things happen. And it's a huge time of celebration. It is really magical and it's exciting. And it's one of the reasons that we're so passionate about bringing this to you so that you can live a healed, beautiful, deserving, happy life. You can live your life to the full. You can live your life with the level of adventure. You're not stuck and you don't have to stay in place. You can actually have your dreams. You can build in those dreams. And one of the things that we mentioned in the first was that song. It's an older song called I Am Woman by an artist named Helen Reddy. I remember it. It was a great song. And she says, I am woman, hear me roar. The second part is in numbers too big to ignore. And that's what we want to leave you with, that you can live the life that you are meant to have. You're designed for this. So we love you. We love you so much. And we absolutely cannot wait to bring you more next week. We're so excited. Alex mentioned something about the RAS. Keep your eye out. We're going to have an episode upcoming covering the reticular activating system and the magic that happens with that. And that is a part of this brain priming process too. So we'll see you next week.
Thanks for
Ciao.
tuning in. Go grab yourself the wealth activation in the show notes, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Okay. Bye. Mwah.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.